You're a big boy. What's your name?
Paul.
And what can I get you for Christmas?
Don't tell him what you want. He's a liar.
Let the kid talk.
You disgust me. How can you live with yourself?
Just cool it, Zippy.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and this time of year, lots of people are thinking about charitable giving. But giving might not be best accomplished the way you think. Today, we welcome a guy who's not only the managing director and vice chairman at asset manager PIMCO, he's also the mind behind the Genesis Foundation. It's John Studzinski. In our headline segment, while an all-stock portfolio has performed best over long periods of time, what's best when you draw down money? New comments from Vanguard might help you on your way, and we'll share. And while we're sharing, you know what? I'll also chip in and share some magical, riveting trivia. And now, two guys who are all about the magic of more money and spending less time worrying about it. It's Joe and G.
Hey there, Stackers. Happy Wednesday and welcome back to your favorite place to chat about money topics, the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, and across the card table from me, it's the one and only Mr. OG.
With a flourish.
I was trying to be Doug, but I didn't do that well. Doug does it so much better than I do.
If you didn't add syllables.
Flattery will get you everywhere. Hopefully, Doug. No?
Who are you flattering?
Too soon?
Oh, because you said I do it so much better.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I just
like how Joe, to me anyway, looking across the card table, Joe looks like one of those Japanese films that they've dubbed English on top of. So his mouth moves and then you hear the words. It's really, really kind of cool.
It's weird how that happens across the card table.
And
so, when we're in the same room, you might have vestibular nerve issue going on or something, OG.
Right. We'll be back after we take OG to the ER to get checked out. We do have the guy that people call Studs coming down to the basement. Yeah. He is the managing director of PIMCO, a big asset management firm.
PIMCO.
But PIMCO isn't the only asset management firm referenced today. During our headline, we're going to talk about some words out of Vanguard as well. So PIMCO today, Vanguard today, rolling out a bunch of different money firms. But before all that, we do have a couple sponsors to make sure we can keep on keeping on and you don't have to pay anything for all of this goodness. So grab your piece of paper, grab your favorite beverage, find a nice place to sit back and relax. John Studzinski talking about a talent for giving. What does giving have to do with talent? We're going to dive into that with John here in just a moment. Spring cleaning's made its way to my closet. This time of year always makes me rethink exactly what's in my closet. Really want to keep fewer things, but I also want to keep better ones. I want to feel confident, and to feel confident, looking the part's a big piece of that. So I want pieces that are well made and that are easy to wear all the time. And that's why I keep coming back to Quince. The fabrics feel elevated. The fits are thoughtful. Pricing actually makes sense. As I'm swapping out and I'm cutting, the few additions I'm making all come from Quince. Quince makes high-quality, everyday essentials using premium materials like 100% European linen. They're insanely soft, flow-knit activewear fabric. Their men's linen pants and shirts are lightweight, they're breathable, they're comfortable. Basically, the perfect layer for spring. The pants strike the right balance between laid back and refined. If you saw the video of me on stage at Retire Meet, those pants are from Quince. It was really cool. I came off stage and Christine Benz from Morningstar getting ready to go on behind me and said, "Love your pants." Not generally. I absolutely love them. I think they make me look put together without trying too hard. And they're flow-knit activewear, moisture wicking, anti-odor, soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it all day. The best part is their prices. This is important, Stackers. They are 50 to 60% less than similar brands. How? Quince works directly with ethical factories, cuts out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality, not brand markup. Everything's designed to last and make getting dressed easy, which is another thing I think we all want. I love those pants that I wore on stage. It's the cashmere sweater that every time I wear it, Cheryl goes, that is my favorite sweater on you. It looks great, feels great, and I don't have to have 50 things in my closet. So, like I am, refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. Go to QUINCE.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SB. You may not know that when we started Stacking Benjamins, it was a blog. And even then, just the startup cost, I remember thinking, is this the right thing? And what if I write things and nobody comes, right? Well, luckily, that didn't end up happening. But starting something new isn't just hard. It's terrifying. There's so much work. You're not sure whether it's going to work out. You're not sure if anybody's going to read it. And then we change it to a podcast. Is anybody actually going to listen, right? What if nobody wants all the stuff that we have? Well, had I used Shopify, it would have been even easier, because with their expertise, their helpful tools, and their easy to use platform, that's something that would have made Stacking Benjamins more effective much, much more quickly. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Names you've heard of like Heinz and Mattel, Shopify, Gymshark, Aviator Nation, Allbirds, also all Shopify. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button? It's used by millions of businesses around the world. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. So you're stacking Benjamins much more quickly. Time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/SB. Go to shopify.com/SB. That's shopify.com/SB. Well, as you know, Stackers, I love talking to people who expand our thinking on a topic beyond the usual ways that we speak about them. Often these are entrepreneurs. Julie Wainwright, past CEO of infamouspets.com, expanded our idea back in September, if you remember, on the idea of failure. Richard Fame from Royal Caribbean then in October expanded our thoughts on leading a team with diverse ideas and attitudes. And really, sometimes being violently opposed to each other and direct conflict with each other, and using that to make the team actually better and not worse. Then Lou Frankfurt from Coach in November redefined our ideas of being an imposter and using that to your benefit. And if I do my job correctly, we're going to do the same today with the idea of charitable giving, because John Studzinski is here with us in the basement. How are you, John?
Well, I couldn't be better. Very good to see you.
I'm super happy that you are here. And I love the way that you are redefining really what this is about. First of all, you don't like the word philanthropy, I gather, very much when we're talking about giving.
No, I think it's obviously an important word. It has great history and everyone knows what it means. But if you're trying to motivate a young person or a person who's not a philanthropist, they immediately say, that's not me. It's associated with large sums of money. It's associated with establishment. It's associated with bricks and mortar. And it's associated with perhaps a segment of society that change agents, disruptors, or people who are interested in transformation or sustainable impact probably will avoid like the plague. So I prefer not to use the word philanthropy. I think we are all capable on a very simple human level to give, and we are all givers. So I like to look at it as the context of giving.
You can see already, stackers, that this is going to be a much different discussion than most people are having about giving. So I want to blow up 3 different areas. And first of all, we'll talk about why you use these specific terms, John. And then I think we'll dive briefly into each one of these terms to give our stackers an idea of what they mean. First, you use the word talent in giving in this project in the same sentence. And I know when I first read this, everybody at home is thinking what I was thinking, which is talent in giving. What does the word talent mean? Because you've chosen that word very carefully.
Well, actually, when I chose it, I had a very clear biblical reference to the parable of the talents. But then when the book was published, I had to put up this notion that this was some sort of biographical commentary on me, that I have a talent for giving, almost like I'm applauding myself in a very self-righteous way that I'm a giver. And don't you think that's great? And let's all have a round of applause for Studs. No, I go back to the parable of the talents in the Bible. If you remember, the laborers are given, one is given 5 talents. And you have to remember in the Hebrew Bible or the New Testament, a talent is the equivalent of currency. It's equivalent of a piece of gold. It has a certain amount of value. So the gentleman who was given 5 made 5. The gentleman who was given 3 made 3, and they were applauded. But interestingly, the gentleman who was given 1, rather than put it in the bank or give it to someone to get a market rate of return, he buried it, and he was incredibly chastised by his boss. And I think we all are given talent by God that we bury, and they're perhaps some of our most interesting talents, skills, and potentially currency that you can use for the common good. But the point is, you want to unearth all of your talent, and some of the most interesting talent you have, certainly as it relates to giving, is probably at this point buried.
Well, and I never thought about it that way. The fact that maybe we all remember being a child and maybe we had a predilection to be good at some sport, or we were good in some class in school, John. We were good at something, but we showed a little bit of promise, but we still had to develop it. We had to surround ourselves with people that would help us get there. It became something that we worked on and that we actually developed. So I think some people think that because I'm not, quote, charitable today, I love the idea that this is a muscle that I can develop and get better at.
It's a very interesting point where we are in history. You know, when I run a lot of focus groups with very young people, as young as 12, 13, all the way up to the age of 30. And when you ask them, what are you passionate about? What do you believe in? What would you like to do to nurture, and what would you like to give to? You get a very ambivalent, slightly measured, blank stare. If you ask people, what are you angry about? What are you frustrated about? What are you concerned about? What are you annoyed about? You tend to get a really good answer, almost self-righteous anger in a way that's channeled. And then I go through a whole discussion about saying, okay, if you're angry about people are taking the climate not seriously, what are you doing about it? And encouraging them. You know, a good entrepreneur is someone who sees a gap or sees obstacles and then finds a way to overcome them and create a solution. And in some cases, makes a profit for themselves, or in this case, a profit for society.
It's so funny how nobody talks about the idea of talent and positive giving. We're all banging on our keyboard being angry at strangers and about things that aren't directly under our control. And I want to get back.
But can I just ask, we also
Sure.
abdicate responsibility because we think it's somebody else is going to solve problems. It's going to be the government. It's going to be state and local government. It's going to be Washington. It's going to be a corporation. It's going to be my tech provider. It's going to be the adults. It's going to be people who are 10 years, 20 years, 30 years older than I am. That's not how movements are started. Movements are started with an entrepreneurial nurture. And when you're thinking about what's good about the common society, what's interesting is this age group, they're good at a lot of things. They're particularly good at convening. The negative is that they've been abused by social media, and we see that in the Jonathan Haidt book, The Anxious Generation. Having said that, they're very good at convening, and they are incredibly humanitarian.
So then I think being a humanitarian is this outward thing. I'm thinking about, as you mentioned earlier, climate change, or I'm thinking about people in need. I'm thinking about my neighbor. And yet the second idea that you present after talent and how wrapped up really using your talent is, second is the idea that giving seems outward and selfless. And yet you say that to be giving, we have to start off with kind of what I think a lot of people would think of as egotistical and full of yourself. And that is, you need to look inward to begin becoming a better charitably inclined giver.
So we can unpack this on a lot of levels. I think the most interesting thing is there such a thing as pure altruism? And by altruism, I mean, if you think you're going to do good, does that mean you get nothing in return? I would say if the motivation is altruism, you might still get something in return in terms of a sense of goodwill from the beneficiary or something else. I think we have to distinguish that from charity versus philanthropy. Charity is transactional. People support benefits. People donate food to food banks. Charity is a benefit that has a Band-Aid approach. People often give donations at the end of the year. Is that because they're giving donations, or is that because they get tax benefits from it, and therefore they check two boxes? One, they think they're giving well, and that they are, but they're also getting a tax benefit. So it's in some respects a transaction. On the other hand, philanthropy is a partnership. It's a long-term relationship where you're not just giving someone a fish, but you're teaching them to fish, and you're walking with them, along the bank of the river while they learn to fish, and through that different experiences. And I think there are a lot of people listening to this podcast that have seen the fruit of philanthropy in how it changes lives, how it changes families, how it changes communities. But it is still one person at a time.
You had someone very important tell that to your face, John.
Well, it was a very serious chastisement. Mother Teresa always said, don't be too ambitious, don't be too pretentious, don't be all over the place. Focus on changing the world one person at a time. I think this is an inherent, and this comes from my faith, but I think everyone listening to this thing, if you can have an impact on one person's life, that might be your goal, one person. This notion of metrics that you have to do not just one, but 10, not just 10, but 100, not just 100, but 1,000. Human beings are not necessarily subject to metrics. They can't be railroaded. That's why this great concern we have about AI. But I think one person at a time, let's just start there.
Well, I can handle that. That's within my sphere of control, which is what I like about what we just did there, John. Initially, we said philanthropy is too big. It's too cold. It's these, I think you said brick and mortar. It's these huge amounts of money. And yet now you just coupled philanthropy with a much more micro scale. And then it becomes very powerful. But I think in all of our heads, we have to redefine that. So after we look inward at ourselves and we think about changing one person, and really in a lot of ways, looking at us first to see where our talents are. And I'm going to get back to all of these stackers. Third is people assume that it takes money. You right. And yet our stackers think about their portfolio of investments, John, and you say we have this portfolio of talents, and there's many ways to be a giver that maybe include no money.
Yeah, I created my first project when I was 6 years old, and I did it because I identified early on to my mother that there seemed to be a lot of people in the town where I grew up who were not well off and could use a hot meal. And I also knew, on the other hand, that was the use of a project. And the source was there were a lot of families who were particularly generous, in terms of hospitable, and actually knew how to prepare food. So I created a network of people who were good cooks and who prepared warm meals. And this was a modest sum of money, but it was a question of organization and networking and time. And I think this is the notion of ties or technology today, because people have the benefit of technology. I didn't have the benefit of technology in 1962. So I do think it is actually wrong, and you're doing yourself a disservice by giving money. It's relatively cold and transactional. And once the money leaves your hand, you might feel good for a period of time. You might feel like you're part of a community. You might feel like you're part of a member organization. But actually, if you give your time and volunteer, or if you give your power of convening with ties, if you are particularly young and astute at technology, and there's also this need to be tenacious. I believe that one can accomplish a lot in solving problems by tenacity. The other thing I would say is, I don't want anyone listening to this to think I'm naive about money. Money's important, but only important when you don't have it. Good projects, good ideas, clever entrepreneurs tend to attract project money very quickly. I had an idea when I was in my adolescence about the need for, this was in 1969, the need for communicable disease information in the United States. And we needed to have information about what was then communicable diseases, venereal diseases, now would be referred to as things like gonorrhea and syphilis. This is before the AIDS pandemic.
Yeah.
We came up with the idea and we presented it to 2 or 3 people, and the money came in a short period of time from one organization, the JCs, who decided this is a great project to scale across in 48 states. Money will come, but the seed corn in all this is, finding a sense of what you can do to nurture the common good. People are inherently good. People want to do something. They want to be part of a winning team, and they want to do more. They're frustrated with the way things are. We always are going to be frustrated. I mean, I was always chastised when I was working with the poor when I was 6 years old, and a very thoughtful religious sister said to me, "We can feed the poor all day, but remember, the poor will always be with us." And there is a school of thought that says that, but I would counter that by saying the poor may be with us, but we can do a lot more to enhance their dignity and to give them a lot more self-confidence and give them a lot more skills or share our talents to help them embrace more control in their lives.
I want to go back to that first work of philanthropy that you did. It strikes me that if you're trying to put together a network of people to help feed the poor, John, and you're that young, you said that people give agency to everybody else. It's not my problem. It's not my problem. And yet at a very young age, you're doing this. We all see ourselves as imposters, right? But at that age, you clearly are young enough where adults will maybe not take you seriously. How did you get the adults to take you seriously to even put this network together?
Well, I was raised in a very devout Christian family, and it's part of the Christian ethos that to whom much has been given, much is expected. And even if you're growing up in a very strongly working class family, which it was, blue collar, it was a sense that you were given enough. That wonderful quote at the beginning of the book from Seneca, which I've used many times in my life, nothing is worth having unless you share it with others. And we've given a lot of things from God. We should thank God, but we also should be open-minded about sharing.
It's funny, you beat me to the punch there, because I found that striking right at the beginning of the book. And of course, a lot of our stackers are big fans of reading Seneca. And by the way, if you haven't read Seneca yet, I think that's a good holiday gift to yourself to get there. Let's go into this idea then of talent, if you don't mind, John, because there's a lot maybe of our younger stackers that are listening going, really not sure what my talent is. I'm not sure where it lies. Are there some ways that we can dive into this and maybe get some clues where our talents truly might be so we can get working in a smarter way?
Well, I think part of it starts with the power of 2. and the mentor-mentee relationship. And I know that sounds very grand or very pretentious, having a mentor. That's obviously someone else has philanthropy, someone else has a mentor. It's actually not at all. Two people talking about each other who know each other, you take a lot of your inherent talents for granted. And I think today also, social media has done a big disservice to a young generation of people, because social media has created almost a projection of how people should be living their lives, what skills are important, what talents are important. And I think certainly Generation Z is increasingly shedding social media and relying more back to a humanitarian network. And I think that's positive, because I think actually when you're talking about your talents, this generation is particularly strong on convening, and they understand convening well, partly because they've been trained to convene through social media, but they also are very good at convening. And I think you have to realize that talent is not, we're not talking about Elon Musk and going to the moon here. We're not talking about Albert Einstein or Leonardo da Vinci. We're talking about talent that you might be particularly good at networking. You might be particularly good at resourcing ties. You might be particularly good at listening in a homeless shelter. And from listening, you develop a sense of trust. Talent is nuanced. It's not black and white. It's probably more gray than black or white. And I think this is the thing people have to understand. We all have lots of talent. And I think we all think, oh, this person's... Remember when you went to school and someone said, is he quantitative or qualitative? Is he good at English or math? Is he good at science? Or is he good at art? We have these silos. No, this isn't what we're talking about. These are what I call life talents that relate to the ability to lead, the ability to manage, the ability to smile, the ability to have a sense of humor, the ability to use humor to generate consensus, the ability to use humor to understand discrepancies or differences in populations. I mean, there's a lot of things that people have. And part of it is you just come from going back to my power of 2 point, 2 or 3 people talking to each other about their talent. I actually think if you're angry enough about a problem, some of your talent immediately starts to, and if you want to do something about it, some of your talents will become a lot more apparent. It's like if you had to identify one thing you could contribute to something, that it's not money, what it is. It might start with time. It might start with your ability to be very clever with technology. It might start with your views that you're very clever at money in terms of managing money or managing resources. Some people are good with elderly people. Some people are good with children. It's amazing. And I think there's a lot to be said in this exercise for your stackers, that this enhances your self-esteem over time. It enhances your self-confidence because you start to develop a view of what you're really good at. Society lately is trying to beat us into a pulp a bit about thinking, well, what are we good at? And the truth is we are very good at things. Just because technology has provided with it overriding us in some respects, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have lost any of those inherent talents.
And it strikes me, John, as you're speaking, that if I am talented at something, and to your point, I go on social media and I see 25 people that are better at than me. I'm not trying to impact those people. Going back to your conversation with Mother Teresa, I'm trying to impact one person or one organization in my backyard. And if I'm better at it than they are, who cares what those 25 people on social media are good at, because they're not trying to levy that talent on the same people. I'm thinking about something that you wrote in this book about going to a couple people who are very talented and asking them, maybe for some mentorship. You must have mentored between your time at HSBC, at Morgan Stanley, at at all the places where you've been at Blackstone. I'm sure you've had people ask you for mentorship. We spoke earlier, maybe about a year ago, with Seth Godin, the marketing guru, about mentorship. And he said the problem with mentorship in it, John, is there's nothing in it for the mentor. There is nothing in it. You've been asked people that have wanted maybe you to mentor them at things. What's the right way to ask them for help to look at their talent?
I don't agree with that premise at all. I mentor a lot of people. I teach a lot of classes. It's very funny. If a mentor is at all prescient or self-aware, every time you mentor someone, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn more about yourself, and it's holding up a mirror to yourself. So I'm not so sure. And sometimes in mentoring people, it helps you unpack some of your own thought processes one way or the other. So I would not dismiss that mentoring is a one-way channel, one-way process, one-way. I think it is reciprocal and it works both ways.
Is there a way to ask you, though, that you've preferred over your career?
I love to mentor because I like to see the fruit on the fruit tree and how people respond to it. Because I also have a rule of thumb, which is if I mentor you in taking on this, and as you get more engaged, have to mentor somebody else. So it has to follow the domino principle rigorously. I believe it helps you rethink some of your own decisions in your own life. And that wonderful line, which I agree with in many great business decisions, none of us learn very much from success, because with success, you don't know how much further you could have gone, what else you could have done, how much money profit you could have earned, or how much market share you could have gained. That's all success. You tend to learn a lot through disappointments, failures, and sometimes in talking to my mentees, you engage much more reality about what's going on in your own life. So I don't agree with your Seth Rogen comment. I don't agree with that at all. I think that's probably someone that needs to take a course in listening. No, because listening is there's something called tactical empathy, about learning to listen and unpack what they're saying and understanding it from a segmented series of empathetic steps so that you can really embrace the nuances of what the person is saying about themselves.
But has there been a particularly good way you've liked when somebody's asked you, could you mentor me on this? Is there a approach? What I'm looking for is the tactical approach of somebody. Let's say it's me coming to you, asking you to help me with something. Is there a way that is a better way to approach people to maybe get help working on my talent so I can take that and go help other people?
Well, it's very interesting. If you look at the history of mentors, a lot of mentors actually choose their mentees because they're people they see as having promise, and they often approach them and say, if you need further help, if you need advice or guidance, I'm happy to support you.
That's funny. It's been like that in my career, in my life. I've actually chosen, as you're saying that, I'm like, I've kind of chosen my mentees.
And that's fine. I've chosen a lot of my mentees. I have been approached by people at conferences and who I haven't known very well. Then I go through a discernment exercise about trying to decide whether I am the right person and whether what they're hoping to gain. You have to know someone pretty well to ask them to be your mentor, and you have to know yourself pretty well to know what you actually need and what you're looking for. Because some people think they're going to get some secret sauce that's going to actually solve all their challenges in their career or whatever. And that may or may not be the case.
The subtitle of your book, I talked about how auspicious the word talent is, and I hope our stackers see how important that word is. But the subtitle is Creating a More Generous Society that Benefits Everyone. We spent a lot of our time here, John, talking about helping one person and really focusing on if I can help that one person, or maybe that one organization in Texarkana, Texas, where I live, right? How do we create a better society if I'm thinking about just one person?
Well, we're all in this together. We are all in this together. And this is why I reference the common good. And it goes back to the scriptures. It goes back to the Christian scriptures, which you might recall when asked how to pray, Jesus responds, "Our Father who art in heaven." And he uses the term our Father. It's not my Father. It's not your Father. It's our Father. So we are a community. We have a set of goals and objectives. And we have, if the community has served well, that's the common good. So whether we like it or not, the notion of common good is probably one of the fundamental parts of Western and Eastern civilization, the common good. We've got lots of people today who try to disrupt, distract, or destroy the notion of common good. But the truth is, the common good, and it's not a political thing. We're not talking about communism here.
Sure.
We're talking about common good in terms of a framework which benefits everyone.
I need to point out something, John, that you and I talked about just before we hit record here, which was that our mentor in Stacking Benjamins, Mr. Ben Franklin, appears in your book, and you appear in a new BBC series on Ben Franklin.
Yeah, Ben Franklin is one of my favorite characters because he's done it all. He checks all the boxes of, to use that negative term, he's a great disruptor, but he's a great leader. And, he believes, he has a wonderful quote, "It is prodigious the quality of good that may be done by one man if he makes a business of it." So this is during the period of the Enlightenment. This is 1776. And someone is talking about the quality of good that may be done if someone makes a business of it. That is entrepreneurial. And that is what this book is about.
Being in the business of doing good. The book is called A Talent for Giving, Creating a More Generous Society That Benefits Everyone. John, thank you so much for mentoring our stackers today. And especially, we need this every month, but I think now in the age that we're all angry on our keyboards, focusing back on our neighbor, I think is a very important lesson. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good chatting.
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today marks a retirement that changed the sports world. Over his career, one boxer held the spotlight more than any other, and on today's date back in 1981, he fought his last fight in what was billed drama in Bahama. The fight was marred by problems like a last-minute run to find, of all things, some boxing gloves for the contestants. And at the end, this fighter called it a career at 39 years old. Who was this prestigious boxer who was a champion well past what most people think of as a boxer's prime years? I'll be back right after I remind Joe's mom that she's nowhere near past her prime. I mean, unless she was a banana, then she'd be in a loaf of bread by now. I'm kidding, Ma!
Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. They're for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken, the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Hey there, I'm Paula Pan. I help people make the smartest money decisions possible.
Do not ever worry about your salary. You need enough to make sure that you aren't in a bad financial position. Once you have that, your salary becomes moot. What matters from that point forward, upside gains. Any type of ownership stake or ownership potential, that's the money.
Remember, you can afford anything, just not everything. Afford anything. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm Boxing Day lover and man who's still not certain what that holiday is even about. Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. One boxer changed the course of history in boxing, and the sport really hasn't been the same since he left in 1981. With the exception of only a few big names and scattered events, boxing has largely been overtaken by MMA as a sport that many Stackers watch. So who was the big name boxer who retired today back in 1981? If you said the guy who floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee, it was, of course, Muhammad Ali. Hey, that rhymes. And now, two guys who may not box, but they naked oil wrestle with your money problems every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Back to Joe and OG.
So slippery.
Not awkward for us.
And awkward.
Awkward for you,
Think
baby.
about me. I'm the one who's got to watch that.
Hey, who do you think, when asked in a room with Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, they asked Muhammad Ali in their primes if they fought each other, who would win? What did Muhammad Ali say?
He said Tyson. It was in Arsenio Hall. It was on Arsenio Hall that happened. And of course, Tyson said Ali, and they did the whole, but I really kind of think it might have been Tyson.
Man, that guy could hit so hard. Could hit so hard. But Ali was way more versatile. I mean, I wonder if he could just drag that fight out.
All I can think about with Mike Tyson is the scene from Hangover where he's like, dun 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 dun, and he punches him in the face. He
You see the stupid questions like, for $100 million, would you get in a ring with Mike Tyson in his prime? No, because you would have a TBI in about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
but you just have to run around, right? Do you think you could run around for 30 seconds?
And just hold on to your head?
Look at me. Of course I can't.
Of course I can.
You in your prime, Doug. Him in his prime. Or you in your prime, him now.
No, you would still
you'd still die.
Yeah.
What if you got to wear one of those like head shield things with like a mouth guard?
No, because your brain still sloshes around inside your bucket.
You're still getting a concussion.
Yes.
But it's one concussion for $100 million. How
do you know I haven't already had 4?
Think about your family, Doug. Don't think about yourself. Selfish.
Selfish.
We just had the guy on.
How much could you donate?
About
You just have to get hit in the face by Mike Tyson to be able to
charitable.
Build a children's hospital.
In a few years, that's actually a reasonable consideration. In a few years, when I'm like done skiing and done doing all the outdoor stuff I want to do, I might take that beating.
You're just going to be like, who wants to punch me in the face for $100 million?
Right. Let's auction that off for Stacker charity. Punch Doug in the face.
What a fatalistic episode. I've done everything I want to do. Just punch me in the face now. Give me
I'll do it for $1. I don't even need $100 million.
Who needs the money? Let's do a headline, guys.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Today's headline is sponsored by NHTSA. Drinking and driving will change your whole world, whether you get pulled over or get into a crash. Things will never be the same. Getting a sober ride will change your world for the better. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA. Okay.
Headline today comes to us from financialplanning.com, the place where financial planners chat. And we love, if you're new to Stacking Benjamins, talking about these types of pieces, because often what financial advisors talk about is completely different than what we'll see in other media. And it was interesting for me when I went from one side to the other to see how different these conversations often were and how they should probably be a little more the same. There was Investments and Wealth Institute meeting recently, and Zachary Rayfield, who's the head of goals-based investing research at Vanguard's investment strategy group, he talked about this idea of a glide path, OG, where you are starting off pre-retirement and then moving your money into a place where it's much easier to access, and exactly how you get there. This piece is written by Elijah Nicholson Messmer, and Elijah writes, for many investors, portfolio design seems straightforward. Simply choose the options with the highest potential returns. But for advisors, sorry?
I said, yeah, super easy. Just pick the ones with the highest returns.
Yeah, duh. I mean, what else are you going to do?
As if.
But it is interesting that they actually tie that, and so does Zachary Rayfield at Vanguard, to equities are the answer. So he's singing off the OG song sheet. The people at Vanguard singing off the same song sheet that you are.
I sent him the script, so I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah. Vanguard, apparently, you're going to have to chat with them because they have to say TM when they talk about an all equities portfolio and recognize your trademark on that. But what he spent a lot of time talking about was, well, that is the right answer. If you just look at it scientifically, it can be the wrong answer for many investors because behaviorally, if you're an advisor serving a wide range of risk tolerances, your mindset, which is everything when you're all equities, can quickly fall apart. And if you can't stomach sharp market swings, the quote best strategy on paper isn't always the right one in practice. And I know that people have heard you talk about all equities is the key, but I think he's still singing off the OG song sheet here, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, when it comes to investment portfolio design, you're trying to figure out a solution that gets you to your goals without ever having you blow it up. And people make radical money decisions around their investments when expectations don't meet or match, rather, reality. And what I mean by that is if you look at your account and you say, oh my gosh, I'm down 20%, I expected to be down 10, then in all likelihood, you're going to be searching for the thing to do to make it closer to 10. You know, if you expected 10 and you're down 20, something isn't lined up correctly. And I think a lot of people understand that's when you make a mistake of, you know, the market's down 20 and then you sell or you change something and then people say, oh, I'd never do that. But they do. But it also happens on the other side of the coin too, where you say, wait a second, the S&P's up like 17% this year. I'm up 12. Like, what the heck is going on? I need to go make a change so that I get some of that 17. And they make a change the other way too and start doing other things that are outside of their parameters as well. That happens equally as much on both sides.
They increase the risk because of FOMO.
Well, I mean, ipso facto, they increase the risk, but they do it through exotic things like going, you know, I need to have private credit in my portfolio because I read about it on Instagram or something. It's like the reason you're getting 12 is because you have 60% of your money in stocks, not 100. You know, it's not because the allocations are wrong. Well, it's not because the individual buckets are wrong. It's because the overall big picture allocation is incorrect. So if you can avoid the expectations not matching reality component of your investments, then you're more likely to not make a radical change when things don't go your way, one way or the other. And I think that far more people get freaked out about the downside than the upside, but it happens both ways. And so when I look at it from a planning standpoint, number one, I want to solve for what does the money have to do? A lot of times when you talk to people, they're surprised by the fact that the money that they've saved already provides a pretty sizable leg up on their overall planning. So if we're meeting with somebody, they're 45 years old, they have $700,000 in their 401k. Every 45-year-old is like, I should have done this earlier. You know, I feel, you know, but then you do the math and you just go, well, you know, it's going to double when you're 54 and it's going to double when you're 63. I mean, that's $3 million. That's pretty good. You're good. You got $3 million plus a little Social Security, plus you got a little brokerage. Like, that's awesome. How do we not screw up the $3 million? You know? And so I think a lot of times we're surprised by the fact that we don't actually have to be as aggressive as we think we have to be to reach the goals that we want. What my challenge to people is, let's say that you're that person that can get to your financial goals with a 50-50 stock allocation. And just for argument's sake, let's say that that's a 5% return. So you do your financial plan and you go, no, I'm good. I'm good at 5%. I don't have to do anything else. Like I don't have to get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% return. I'm good with 5. My challenge to those people is, why wouldn't you want to get 10 so that you can do other bigger things? Because the difference between 5 and 10 isn't double. It's exponentially different. If you run an investment analysis of if my portfolio grows at 5, you know, it grows and then it peaks and then I spend some money. When I'm 100, I kind of run out or I'm close to running out or the curve has like gone the other direction. If you think of it that way and you go, no, I'm good. Why wouldn't you want to have it be the other way where it's like this never ending exponential increase? And like John was talking about just a bit ago in terms of giving, think about all the giving opportunities that you have if you have a portfolio that has $10 million at the end versus $1 million at the end. And I'm not saying you have to give that money away to charity. I'm saying like you give it to your kids or your grandkids or
it just opens up new doors.
It's just like you have other opportunities to do other things. Hell, you can consume it on yourself. Like, you always wanted to get a Ferrari. Guess what? You got $10 million. You can have one. There's nothing wrong with any of those outcomes. If you're like, nope, I'm good. I don't like the ups and downs. I'm definitely going to freak out. My expectations match how I'm feeling about money. And so when the market goes up 10, you get 5. When it goes down 10, you go down 5. Like, you feel good about that, you're in a good spot. But if you can say, if there's other things that I can do beyond that, and I find energy in those things, why wouldn't you want to have a higher exposure to the things that are going to grow faster, assuming that your plan's still good?
Yeah.
And open up other opportunities down the line, like you said.
Ray Field says, quote, from a pure performance standpoint, you're going to do better with just equities. But it's about sort of balancing the behavioral aspect, as you're talking about, OG, which exists in all investors. In fact, he and other researchers have a theory called the human capital theory. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but what it basically says is the older you are, the more likely you are to mess up your portfolio. And the reason is that when you're young, you have this lifetime earning potential, which is really high. And in your brain, that's like a very conservative asset. They call it a bond here, but it could be like an annuity or a pension, where you think about your lifetime earning potential and you're like, hey, I can risk my money in the stock market. Plus you have a hell of a lot less money, and the time you're going to spend most of it is way in the future. So because you have this, quote, bond allocation, when it comes to your earning ability when you're young, you're much less likely to mess with the portfolio. But the closer you get, the fewer earning years you have, the more that goes down and down. And if you are just in equities and you're going to spend it sooner, you're then going to do what we talked about on Monday, OG. You're going to start watching the news. You're going to start worrying about all kinds of stuff. You're going to begin to freak out more with this all equities portfolio. The chances that you will. So I think this is a big case of know yourself. I mean, you really, really, really have to know yourself. I think it's a little bit of a gut check time.
My observation is that most people compare their portfolio results in dollars and then compare those dollars to other things that are the same dollar amount in their lives. And here's what I mean by that. So let's say that you have $100,000 in your account and it goes down by 20%, right? Goes down 20 grand. People don't say, I lost 20%. They say, I lost 20 grand. No, you know what I mean? Like in a cocktail party, if the market's taking a crap, and you're playing the who's got a bigger one game. Well, I lost. Nobody says percentages. They say dollars. I'm down 20 grand. I'm down 40. I'm down 200. That's the competition, right? Who can have the more miserable life? Like the other way on how much more money I made than you.
I don't want to brag, but my life is more miserable than yours.
Absolutely. I mean, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? How people get in these these size contests.
I'm more tired than you are.
Yeah, my life sucks worse than yours because you just love to be a victim. But we use dollars to do that, and in our brains, we compare those dollars to other things that we know are dollars in our life. So, for example, if you have 100,000, you're down 20%, you're down 20 grand. You think, but I make 100 grand, so I'm good. So that's kind of what Vanguard's saying here is we compare these things to where we are in our lives. Which is always interesting to me because when I talk to people and I say, hey, behavioral, blah, 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 they go, it's totally fine, man. Last time the market went down 20%, I was good. I was like, yeah, but you've never had 5 million before. Like, I'll do the same thing. No, you won't.
And at the same time, OG, the part that I like that they're saying here, I think the nuance, we haven't talked about that much on the show, is also just this idea that you have fewer earning years as well, and you're closer to spending it. You have more money and you're closer to spending it. So, the impact of, well, I'm down 40,000, somebody who's down 40,000 and they're 35 versus somebody who's down 40,000 and they're 65. Just even if the number's the same, the 65-year-old's probably going to freak out more because they think, well, I need that money.
Yeah. Just in that silo with the same dollar amounts, I would agree with that. I would also take it from the percentage standpoint and say, 20% is 20%, but if you're down 20% on 4 million, that's 800,000. And then using that comparison to your income, because that's the most logical thing that most people compare it to, you think, oh my gosh, that's like 8 years of work. I just lost 8 years of work in one day, or, in one year, whatever. The challenge is to understand that's part of the deal with investing. You can't have the plus 16s this year without having the minus 16s another year. Like that's just the trade. And it's not it's not a net zero game, right? We know from history it's a net plus 10% game on average. And so you just have to look at this when people ask me like, well, do you think there's going to be a recession? I don't know. When I look at the numbers, I go, well, but we're up 16%. Yeah, that's great. Well, in my mind, I go, well, how do we get back to 10? Because it's still 10, right? And so does that mean we have to have a 4? We have a 16, then a 4 that gets us to 10. Do we have a 16, a 16, and then a minus 12?
Then down. Yeah.
And that gets us to 10. Like, how do we, and when you stack 10 years in a row, I can understand why people are like, dude, it's 10 years. A market going straight. We're averaging 15% a year for 10 years. Like, this is, what do we do? I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying like math is somewhat math, right?
Sure.
So I think if you go into it knowing that that's part of the deal, you know, that you're going to see those declines, what we use for clients are real numbers. We try really hard not to say, you know,
5%, 10%, 15%.
Yeah. In the future, you know, this could go down 7%. That doesn't mean anything to anyone. Like what's a 7? It's like, what does that mean? There's a real chance that next year you have $1 million. There's a real chance that next year we could log in and see 800. You know, here's your statement, says 800K. Like, what are you thinking? How do you feel when you see that?
Yeah. Time to go to a party and bitch about my losses.
Yeah. That's all you do. Let's get after it.
Then you're good.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's like, I'm really concerned and I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to probably postpone my goal. This also ties into the timing of your cash flows. When you say like, well, where should my money be for the different goals that are coming up in my life? I have a financial goal that's in a year from now. Should I have this money invested? Well, let me ask you, if you wake up tomorrow and you have $20,000 less dollars in that account, are you going to postpone the goal? Are you going to have to do something different with that goal that comes up in a year from now? Well, yeah, if I don't have that 20 grand, I can't send my kid to college. Well, then we can't take the 20 grand of risk. You know, like that's not a thing. Why would you want to do that? Well, but what if the market goes up? What if it goes down? It's not, you have the money for college. Now you're playing with house money. You're good. You know, it's the same thing about retirement. When you get to retirement, people say, oh, you know, it'd be all stock. It's like, yeah, but you still want to have a year, 2, 3 of cash. That's how you can have all stock, is because you have a couple years of emergency money. If the market does take a crap, you have a safety net there.
There's another nuance to this that this researcher brings up, which is interesting because before I say the magic word that triggers people, I want people to remember this is a Vanguard-based researcher.
Hate them, not us.
And Vanguard is all about low cost index. Keep it simple. Like on paper, that seems to be their marketing, right? This researcher, Rayfield, then says for very conservative people, OG, who have that lower risk tolerance behaviorally, and they're trying to create a quote safer glide path into spending years. He said, this is where a very low cost, immediately annuitized annuity could work because it creates a pension stream that replicates then in your brain. It brings up that paycheck that you know, that so the freak out factor is less because these very conservative investors can stay in equities because they know that they have a consistent amount of money that no matter what happens to the stock market, they can rely on, almost like they did when they were 30 years old and they knew they weren't going to take the money out for a long time and they had a paycheck coming from 30 to 65. You're replicating this in your brain by implementing an annuity.
I wonder what it would be like if instead of, you know how every year you get a statement from the Social Security Administration that says, hey, here's how much money you made last year. Here's what your Social Security is going to look like if you get it at 62 or 66 or 67 for you guys, you know, tomorrow.
Easy.
You know, like, that was a good old person's joke and neither of you smiled or laughed.
I said easy.
I didn't hear you.
I'm doing something else. I was not listening.
Doug had a swear word. It beeped out.
Yeah.
Something off? Something off, Doug? Was that what you said? But I wonder if...
what's cough?
Yeah.
Are you coughing?
Cough. I wonder if you converted that to dollars and then said it was basically a government annuity, if that would influence people's behavior to invest the rest of their money.
Oh, good point.
Aggressively.
Yeah.
Like if I said, because you look at Social Security and you say, well, it's like $2,000 a month. It's like $2,000, like from 62 to 100, or your life expectancy 90. That's a big chunk of money.
How much money's in that annuity?
It's like $1 million, man. Like you have $1 million that's paying you $20,000 a year for the next 30 years or, whatever the math is. So it's like, I wonder if we converted that to a dollar sum that said it was an annuity, if that would influence people to be okay with investing the rest of their portfolio. Because if you look at that also as part of your retirement portfolio, for a lot of people, it's a lot of their retirement portfolio. But even for those who have done a good job of saving outside of that, it's still a big dollar amount if you took it in its present value terms.
It's fascinating.
So even being 100% equities, you're still 60-40.
It's a fascinating discussion, and I love this idea of asking yourself, what would I do if my portfolio went down X amount of money? Put yourself in that position at a time, almost like on Monday, when Steve Kerber was talking about the family fire drill, the family walking through that. Do that with your money. Do the fire drill ahead of time.
Call them light bulb drills, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
You know what I was doing when you were making fun of us for being old? Which
Turning
is why
up your hearing aid?
I didn't. Okay, that was pretty well done. I applaud that. No, I just decided, you know what? It got me thinking about the whole rule of 72 and like, just be patient. We're talking about, how would you react if you lost X percent? But I was thinking of the inverse of that, of just be patient. It's going to, you don't see, as we talked about on Monday, you oftentimes don't see it as it's sort of trickling in or growing slowly. But if you check years later, like, holy cow, I don't know why I didn't do this before. I just went out 9 years in my Google Calendar and put a reminder to myself for this date to see, is my portfolio worth about, and I put in specifics, is it doubled, based on what it is today? So I put a couple of notes in there. That'll be fun. Like, so everybody stick around for 9 more years on the Neighbor Doug show, and I'll let you know.
I think there's a joke in there, something about the rule of 72 being like, for you guys, like the rule of tomorrow.
Oh my God. I think we need to wrap this. We'll link to this piece on our show notes page.
I'm not going to double anymore because I'm at the rule of 72.
In just a second, we're going to go to our community segment, the back porch. But I know that a lot of you are thinking, you know what? This sounds like a little bit of planning, this retirement stuff that we've spent the last 20 minutes talking about. And you know what? If you need to do a better job in 2026 than you did in 2025, we have a ton of resources. But one of our main resources is OG and his team, including Anna, who was on the show again, just last week. stackingbenjamins.com/OG gets you to OG and Anna's calendars to book an appointment with them so that you're able to make 2026 much smoother year for you and not make the behavioral mistakes that we talked about in today's headline. stackingbenjamins.com/OG. Doug, let's go out on the back porch because on Monday you had a review all about some show called The Doug Show.
Yeah, The Neighbor Doug Show, coming soon to a theater near you. But we have another one today. It's not quite as good as Monday's, but it's good. I mean, look, I don't want to take anything away from...
Because it doesn't lead with the words Doug.
It doesn't lead with, yeah.
Neighbor Doug.
Look, I mean, you guys got to get some sunshine once in a while too. The great review we got is called 7 Years and Counting, 5-star review, because of course, from N for nickname. I have been enjoying Stacking Benjamins for 7 years and counting. It's easy to understand, fun, money, and life insights, even if you aren't a spreadsheet nerd.
That's fabulous.
Nerd. Thanks, N.
This is the show designed for non-spreadsheet nerds. We love our spreadsheet nerds, but our goal is to definitely help bring along people who aren't spreadsheet nerds. Thanks so much for the kind words. And if you have a review, you know what? I have all these books I'm trying to move out. If you send me your review, I will then say thank you with a book. Please don't leave a review just because you want a book. But man, if you do leave us a review, you're the type of person that I love that will take just a second and help us so we can help more people. And then I'm very happy that you're helping me move these books I use for research out of Mom's basement because we're going to run out of room.
You got to leave the review out on the platform, whether it's Spotify or Apple or wherever you're going to leave the review. But then you got to let Joe know. You got to shoot him a note so he knows how to get in contact with you, right?
Yeah, please definitely shoot me a note.
And if you haven't sent Joe anything in, he doesn't know where to get you your book.
You're going to hear a lot more about this next week. And in fact, next Wednesday and specific time to come, I'm going to do a walkthrough of the new Stacking Benjamins Vault. 3 different products, all created to help you lock down your financial situation. It turns out that there is a few places, when you hit that accept cookies, or, I want to get an email from you so I get some discount. There's a few places that sell your email to everybody. And if you just lock down these basic places, a ton of this junk mail goes bye-bye. Just a ton of it goes bye-bye. That's one of the features of the Vault, is telling these organizations that sell your information to keep you off that list. So that is just one aspect. Many more. I'm not going to take a ton of time, because it will take a ton of time to tell you all the badass things that the Stacking Benjamins Vault can do for you. But it's stackingbenjamins.com/vault. And you're going to be hearing about that much more in the upcoming weeks as we roll this out. We partnered with Array, who's protected millions of people, to create the Vault. They've been such a great company to work with and great at helping people lock down their financial future. So we're super excited that is here during the holiday season, a way that we can help our stackers keep their money safe. All right, that's going to do it for today. Coming up on Friday, we begin our year-end festivities with a roundtable featuring our regulars, OG, Paula Pant from Afford Anything, and Jesse Kramer from the Best Interest blog and Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors podcast. They're going to talk about the things that shaped 2025, those events that happened. What are the big events that we could have learned from in 2025 so we do better in 2026? We got that coming up in just a couple days. But coming up right now, we're going to turn to my right here and say, Doug, what should we have learned from today's show?
I always feel at this time of the show, I always feel like the tugboat captain that, gets to bring the
Brings
ship
it
into
in.
harbor. Like, yeah, like I'm that final mile, that last mile that gets you home safely. So here we go. Here's what you should have learned today. First, take some advice from John Studzinski. When thinking about charitable giving, expand your thinking. Sure, you can give a few bucks, but giving your abilities and your time, that's a gift that can help your favorite causes change the world. Second, a suboptimal glide path might save your sanity and help your portfolio land the way you want. Seeking out only higher returns, especially when it comes to withdrawing money, often isn't the right answer. But the big lesson? Don't ask Joe's mom, who floats like a butterfly. She thinks it's her, and she'll start dancing to Flashdance songs just to prove it. Trust me, you don't want to be there when she brings out that bucket of water. Thanks to John Studzinski for joining us today. You'll find his new study of giving, The Talent of Giving, wherever books are sold. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2025, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
I just have to say, Stackers, the lineup of mentors, and John Studzinski is the penultimate one. We got one more for you.
You just wanted to use that word.
Next Monday. I did. I'm doing this whole sentence just so I can say penultimate. But just the lineup lately of people. I was telling somebody on our trip when we took Mom on the Christmas river cruise recently. By the way, you'll hear more about that over on our sister show, Stacking Adventures. I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but we did have. Mom had a great time. Her first time outside of the United States. But anyway.
Can we get the whole slideshow? Have you loaded up the carousel full of slides?
You'll get all that on the adventure show, because I know there's people that love the slideshow like I do. And there's people that are like, oh, please, God, no. So go over to Stacking Adventures, and in the next couple of weeks, you'll hear the whole story. But somebody asked me, of course, what I do. And I'm like, I get to talk to interesting people and make myself laugh. Like it is.
Thanks, Joe.
It is such a difficult existence, But people like John Studzinski and Steve Kerber and Lou Frankfurt from Coach and Richard Fain from Royal Caribbean, and just some of the people that we've got to talk to lately. It's so damn fun. Not to mention getting to hang out with you guys. What a fun use of time.
Looks up from Mike. Oh crap. There's OG and Doug. Yeah, you guys too.
Yeah, you guys are cool too.
Yeah. I mean, if you like that sort of thing.
So on the way home, speaking of cool people, I love talking to you guys about movies. And I'll say this just before I know, OG, you've got something about ChatGPT, but this is not going to be a full review. But Doug, you reviewed the show, The Studio, which is on Apple TV and is created by Seth Rogen. And your review was, it's very inside baseball. Yeah. And for people that really like that sort of thing, like you, Joe, you will probably love it, but most people won't. I watched the first 5 episodes of season 1 on the flight back to the US. And I'll tell you that review, and I disagree with plenty of Doug's reviews, spot on, 100% spot on. I freaking love that show. I thought that show was so damn fun. I laughed my head off, but it's all inside jokes about how movies get made. And very, very funny for people that wanted more of the inside baseball that you got maybe a decade ago with Entourage, that old show that kind of follows the early Mark Wahlberg years. Yeah. If you wanted more of the agent in the show, which to me was part of my favorite part, like
Ari Fleischer
getting involved in all of these negotiations. This is just one negotiation after another and dealing with talent and Oh my God. The first episode about Kool-Aid, about they're trying to make the Kool-Aid movie.
Yeah.
And then Martin Scorsese wants to make a movie about Jonestown.
That was clever.
And Seth Rogen is trying, as the studio head, is trying to get out of making the Kool-Aid movie. And he's like, wait a minute. And Martin Scorsese's really in the show. There's so many cameos, like you said, Doug. And he's like, wait a minute. Didn't they all die by drinking Kool-Aid? So he gets to tell his boss, who's played by Bryan Cranston. I mean, this is just star-studded lineup. He gets to tell Bryan Cranston's character that, we're making a Kool-Aid movie.
I mean, I just saw that the studio is up. I don't remember, some major established award for, top shows of the year. AFI I think most people will hate it. And it's on the studio's on the list. I'm just shaking my head thinking, I just can't see most people outside of Southern California or New York really loving this.
Unless you really follow movies a lot like I do. And I thought it was fantastic, but all the way through I was thinking about your review, Doug. I'm like, yep, I'm like the 5% of people that will think this is just fantastic. Yeah. But anyway, the studio, definitely, I think a thumbs down for most people. But OG, you've got stuff. ChatGPT.
Everything these days is ChatGPT'd. And I don't know if you guys have you done the voice ChatGPT? Like
I have not
talked to it.
Yeah,
I have not.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, right? To have this conversation. It's like a conversation with somebody that really wants you to succeed. They're like, I don't think that's right. Yeah, you're probably right. That's wrong. You should go this way. But I was curious about what ChatGPT is going to look like in the future and like how useful it is. There's some trends that it's going to replace Google, like in terms of search, people, ChatGPT, it's just like a Google thing. But then other areas of your life too, right? Like in terms of helping you cook and that sort of thing. And then I was thinking about it from the context of my kids, and they use it, in school, obviously, because every kid does. How much more are they going to use it? And I think this is a little foreshadowing into the future of what it might be like to get a job if you have always used ChatGPT for everything.
Hey, come on in. Did you have trouble parking? I'm at a job interview and was asked if I had trouble parking. What do I say?
That's a common icebreaker question. A simple response would be,
No trouble at all. I appreciate you checking. I'm hiring a janitor. What are good job interview questions?
for strong interview questions, you could try,
How do you prioritize tasks when there's a lot to clean?
I start by looking at what needs the most attention, like high traffic or high risk areas.
What are high risk areas?
High-risk areas generally refer to dangerous places such as a city struck by an earthquake, or perhaps a war zone.
Oh my God. What do I ask a janitor who's been in a war zone?
If a janitor has been in a war zone, it's best to avoid questions that are deeply personal or traumatic.
Like what? Do you prefer spending time indoors or outdoors? Do I prefer indoors or outdoors?
Either can be preferred depending on your mood.
What is my mood?
How are you feeling? Anxious, excited, wistful, curious?
Excited.
A man has told me about a third place, which is neither indoors or outdoors, but simply called excited. Where is this and how easy is it to clean?
This could be referring to a metaphysical state in which energy supersedes matter. It's safe to say this place is not easy to clean.
Well, if you can clean that, you can clean anything. You're hired. How long is appropriate to shake hands?
Just shaking hands because the phone died. It said low battery.
So they can't stop.
They can't stop.
They have no idea what to do next.
Just love how it goes. Like, what are high risk areas? High risk areas are like a man has told me of a place that is neither indoors or outdoors, but is called excited.
Hey, ChatGPT, how do you end a podcast?